Hey, welcome back to ShredMentor Live. I'm your host, Jason Aaron Wood. And tonight I'm going to be going over some fun stuff dealing with riffs. I've got a pretty exciting and I think pretty fun lesson planned for you tonight. So this is going to be particularly metal focused, and there's actually a download which is entirely written on 7-string diagrams. But not to worry, if you only have 6 strings, you can use most of them, and with a little bit of adaptation, you can pretty much still make these chords happen for the most part. If you have 8 strings or more, you can do a lot of the things I'm going to show you too, because these are sort of repeatable things, all right? So let's bring up the chat, and let me know in the chat that you can hear me, because it would be a shame if you can't. All right, so I am going to be using all 7 strings on this, and the type of things that we're going to be talking about tonight are dissonant within still a very melodic kind of a context, though, okay? So I am not aiming to make, just utterly dissonant sounding stuff, but I am aiming for a dark and melodic sounding kind of thing, all right? And the music you were just listening to is from my still unreleased Ol Sonoof album that I wrote in 2018 in the summer. And that song is something that I actually used some of the stuff. It's the thing that partially, while jamming a couple days ago, just in some free time I had, I started messing around with that riff again, and it started the gears turning, thinking about all these different chord shapes that I tend to use a lot. And it's not, I'm no John Petrucci or anything like that, but he's really known for his awesome chord vocabulary. But ever since I learned theory, learning chords had to sort of be sold to me by my guitar teacher back in like 94, 95, because I just wasn't really open to, I didn't want to learn chords, because to me that meant like folky, singing around the campfire kind of stuff that I absolutely didn't want to do. And as you see, I'm still not exactly doing that, but I know a lot of chords now. But the way it was sold to me, the thing that got me on board to learn chords was, oh, you don't have to learn chords. You can make your own once you understand how they're made. And that's why that just made me like a total music theory nerd in a single sentence. When my guitar teacher told me that, I'm like, oh, okay, count me in. Because I don't want to sit around the fire strumming chords and do, that's not what I'm in this for. And it's nothing wrong with that if that's what you like, and if it's just one of the things you like, to enjoy it. But that's not really where I've ever been coming from. And for me, one of the things that's helped me to make the sounds I want to make is the ability to kind of just make chords or extend chords and introduce the kinds of dissonance that we metal fans know and love. All right, so I'm going to be using. Well, you know what? Let's bring up the PDF for tonight. And again, if you're on YouTube, you can actually you can get that right in the link in the chat. Let's see here. I'm going to just post it a second time. Let me just think what the best way to get to that is. Let's see, where will I do that? All right, this is what I'll do. One moment, please. I want to post that in the restream chat for everybody here. So if you don't have that, let's see. Click it. Copy. Let's go into that. Where is the restream chat? Chat, there it is. I never use the actual restream page. Hi, Mike. How you doing? And hi, Scott. And hi, Matthew. I'm sorry, I'm all out of order here. Thank you, guys. Welcome. Thank you for verifying that you can hear me, and welcome. Okay, so here is the download to follow along later or now. It's one page PDF. It's all going to be on the screen. It's going to be a lot bigger than that. I'm zoomed way in on it. Okay, and tonight I'm probably not going to be using the beats too much. Okay, but yeah. I'm on a 7-string, so if you have one, cool. If not, just focus on the ones where we're not using that, okay? I almost didn't put the X's in on this, and some of the open string symbols are optional. Some of them are absolutely a must, though. Okay, so I'll be kind of on my own browser. If you see me looking up here, this is how I'm going to be scrolling through for you. This section here, I've got like 5 of them. Wait, no, is that? Yeah, 5 of them, and they're all kind of doing the same thing. All right. So the first ticket here to doing this is you want to play off of. You want to play off of intervals, first of all. One thing I will be using for an external sound, just so you can kind of hear the context, though. Occasionally, I'm going to switch over to drones, okay? And if you missed last week's show, you can see that they've gotten a pretty upgrade here now. I used a mid-journey picture of all sci-fi kind of thing, because that's sort of what I was always, I don't know, to me that's what the drones look like in my head, a big, you know, soundscape, landscape kind of thing. So there's a little planet. Anyway, I'll be using this for some of this stuff, just so you can kind of hear how the context would go if there were to be a backing chord, since I'm only one guy. So I can only play one of the parts, but anyway. So this is a really common one. Let's just go right down the list here, okay? This is essentially the same thing, and what we're dealing with is well, in this case, I just made what I'm perceiving, the root note, or the note that I perceived to be the root note at the time I made the diagram, red, per tradition. As much as I've, you know, talked smack on black dots, I was in a little bit of a hurry today, so I made this today, so sorry. But okay, that's the sound we're going for here. We basically have a root note, it's minor third, and then also the half step right below this. So it's actually just the 1, 2, and 3 of a scale. So in this case, it's D, E, and F, but played on separate strings so they can ring out. And that's really handy. And you notice that I also put an open D string in there. It's optional. I don't know how many bands have by now have done something like. I know I have many times. I actually put it on. I was tuned down a half step for it, but let's see. Longing for What Cannot Be on my album Escape. It starts off with exactly that. Yeah. So yeah, let's hold that, and it comes back in the bridge and stuff like that. So anytime if you have just one guitar or the main guitars, or you know. You know, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then you could layer another one going. And it'll sound really, really cool. It adds just a nice melodic kind of dissonance. You know, still nasty from the distortion and stuff. And I'm using quite a lot of distortion. You don't need to use this much if you don't like it, but having some distortion is kind of the appeal here. All right, so that's sort of what we're doing. Is we're purposely taking one note, but basically that half step. Goes the half step out of this relationship here. From the second and the third. Let's pretend this is the root note of a minor key here. The second, or the major second and the minor third are a half step apart from each other. So we're taking a particular, we're going to aim for an open string, and that'll be the second, and we want to play the note on the next lower string that is a half step higher than that. So we'll play F along to an E. So that's going to put us around the 5th, 6th fret on most of these strings, since we tune to the 5th fret on most strings. All right, so. And the note that's right below it, that open string, and the scale, I'm going to play it on the next lower string. It really gets comfortable on the 2nd and 3rd string, because, again, those are sort of 1 fret closer to each other than all the other strings. So just that alone is great. In this case, since you also have that there, you can do that. And you can also include the A, even though it's not the root note, it's the 5th of the chord. So that and the bass works really great. Whoever just grabbed that, good job. Yeah, you'll be able to follow this along and get a lot more out of it than what we do in this 1 hour. So what's also cool too, if you happen to be tuned to drop D, you could go down and hit your 6th string and you got another D, so it'll sound really, really full, and you could do a lot more with it. But I'm not going to do any drop D stuff with it today. But anyway, don't forget that that's always an option. All of the chord diagrams in this PDF, by the way, are for just standard tuning. Something standard. In this case, I'm just regular, regular standard tuning here. So if you want to tune down a half step or whatever, it'll still work all the same, but I didn't do any drop D, sneaky stuff or anything in there. So that is going to be something that I encourage you to experiment with too, because it's some fun stuff. But anyway, let's look at what happens as we move this down the strings. Okay, so as you see, the notes get extra fret apart here, and actually they move up. No, not in this case. All right, so the next one down, I do this one a lot too, which is basically we're going to take the B string, same thing, the note above B, a half step above that. Hey, Mike, that was you, awesome, man. I saw that was so I'm not in the habit of checking my phone, but I was like, Gmail, I'll bet you that was a download. Good. Grab them while you can, guys. All right, so we tune this, tune to the B at the 4th fret, so we go to the 5th fret for that. We want to play off of that. All right, and so then we want to go down a whole step from that B on the next string and the A. And there's the same concept. And of course you can use your open A string there too. If you want, you can use your open E as well. Using a little bit of a harmonic minor to kind of come back out of that, using the 6th chord, the raised 7. This is sort of an inverted E major chord, to be honest. Here's E, here's its 3rd in the bass, so it's actually more of an E chord, but anyway. So you can also do the same thing you did before with that previous chord, and basically what we're trying to do is introduce as many half steps that are naturally occurring in the key as possible. So natural minor, this is 2nd and 3rd of the scale, and the 5th and 6th of the scale. So this is just whatever key you're in, that's where they're going to be located. And if you happen to do something with harmonic minor, you gain an extra half step, because when you move the 7th up a half step to get harmonic minor, you just moved it right next to the root note. So now you have 3. In this case, I did use A as a pedal to. I mean, I'm going to be a little more freeform about what I'm playing, but kind of, yeah. I'm letting. This is actually where those open string notes kind of come in handy. In this case, the open A is kind of just optional because there's already an A in the pattern there. So reinforcing it from beneath is fine. I like it because it gives me an extra note I can play, even if it's, you know, speaking of the harmony, it's not really adding anything new, but it does add an extra event that I can play to get a longer rhythmic pattern. So I do like it for that reason. That's what. You know, just kind of messing around with stuff like that, where a lot of these you will find, unlike typical chord diagrams, I had to, you know, I'm always kind of like breaking some of the rules with typical diagram stuff, because, and with, you know, I've broken the rule with tab before. I've just used the strings I need sometimes as a shorthand, but in this case I'm breaking the rules a little bit, as you'll see later on, because I'm kind of putting an open string but also a fretted note, and that's going to look confusing at first glance. What I just did there, where I take an open, play a string I'm playing an open string note on, I'm letting enough notes ring out that I can go back and forth between the open string and a fretted note at will. So it's part of the pattern, so don't be confused. Just realize that if there's 2 notes listed on a string, I'm either going to, you know, open, I'm just going to remove my finger and put it back on, or I might even, I don't think I would put anything on these diagrams where you actually have to slide, but you could, oh, there is one place where there's a hammer-on involved. But yeah, anyway, so if you see that, I really do mean use both notes. It's not which one. It's play one and then play the other. Come up with a pattern of combining these notes. It's not about, I'm not strumming these. You'll notice I'm actually pretty much arpeggiating these. So anyway, this is kind of the gist, though. We're basically just taking whatever the open string is, treating it as the major 2nd in a minor scale, including the minor 3rd and the root note in the next 2 strings down. Okay, so we're playing off of the open string. In fact, that actually kind of works as just full-on A minor. Those 6 notes . One, 3, 2, 4, 6, 5 would be the scale degrees. So that whole thing, you know. Takes a little bit of coordination, but you could just sort of go back and forth and just leave these fingers down. Now that I never realized that before. You just figured it out just now. Okay, so the next one down then, we're going to play off of the G string. And so our next note up from that, it's kind of an F minor thing. Now, when you can, see, I decided to just go ahead and hit the E and see what happened, because I was thinking, that is kind of the raised 7 of F harmonic minor. So in this case, now that's actually an interesting, that's actually a Hungarian minor thing, which kind of works really nicely. So yeah, you could kind of just use like the typical minor shape, which is basically like pinky on the root note, go up a string, down 2 frets, up in pitch, by the way. So it'll be like 8, 6, 5 in this case. And the 5th fret it's not even on the diagram, just experimenting with what else I can do here. Yeah, it's very F Hungarian minor kind of thing going on in that case, because it's got a little bit, as you're saying here, Mike, Phrygian and Lydian. In the Phrygian sense, I can. If I was treating E as the root note, it would be, but it's really about the F in this case. What kind of helps a little bit too, by the way, I'm finding that like the amount of distortion I like to use is like just boiling over crazy distorted, and it might be a little bit much, but I also don't like how it weakens when I turn my volume knob down a little bit. I usually do that to clean it up a little bit, but I am finding that a partial palm mute is actually getting just the right amount. So that was one thing you might want to try to kind of keep a leash on this if you're experiencing something similar. So I'm using both open E strings because I know it's the raised 7 of Hungarian or harmonic minor. Either way, same raised 7. All right, so that's another option there. Let's look at the same thing. It's going to be the same frets, just move it all down. This is a C minor, root, 3rd, and 2nd. And I'm kind of just alternating back between the 6th of the scale and the 5th. I can use the sharp 4 too. And the lower and lower we go, I guess that's the lowest we're getting. I guess we can get G minor out of it in this case too. Now, I do want to say one thing, though, okay? Before I expand a little bit on this particular area here. So we just went through these 5. I've kind of drawn like sort of a rounded rectangle around these to kind of keep them in sections, just to show you that it's essentially the same idea. And there's a little bit more of that as I scroll to the right in a little while. We're going to get into a new family of these in a bit. But what I'm going to do here, too, is this is where I'm going to use the drone. I'm going to go back to just this first one up here. Okay, the one where I said it was D minor, and I want to show you a little bit of a. There's really 3 options here. You have 3 notes. You could treat any one of them as the note. So I mean, you've already kind of heard it with like a D. And I'm just going to focus on those high 3 notes. I'm not even going to worry about the open D string. Okay, now I'm actually going to switch it to an E though. I want you to hear how that works, because now it's going to be like an E Phrygian. Instead of a D minor or harmonic minor or whatever D minor, it's going to feel like an E Phrygian now. Right, you know, I can even use that E. Right? That kind of thing. So, you know, you can come up with some really cool things. And this is probably great stuff for like intros, but this can work on any kind of riff really at any point. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of take a moment and kind of illustrate that kind of thing. It doesn't have to be the one that's marked as the root note. This was just my thinking at the moment. Just so I can demonstrate it to you as this is the root, and then we're using the major second and minor third of the scale. So just to kind of give you an idea there. Yeah, context is everything on this one. So let's just kind of hear that. Okay, so it works great. The same with, right? Obviously, it works great with A. You can kind of hear that. I'm just going to play what it sounds like with the second on this. Right? So yeah, you can get some really cool Phrygian kinds of sounds out of this too. Actually, let me think. Oh yeah, that's a fun one. I'm actually kind of treating it like Phrygian, but in a way. Yeah, let me talk through that a little bit. Basically, the 7th, the flat 2. And the 1. Alright, going down to an A, back up past it to a C, back to the A, and then hitting the B, right? But then I move this up, and I'm going to hit the C on this string instead. My original 3 notes I'm playing together are. And then I'm kind of, by moving up, I'm kind of involving, which is what your Phrygian scale would be. Half step, whole step. But I'm doing, instead of going up there, I'm revealing that really what I'm doing is actually using a diminished scale. Just half step, whole step, half step, whole step into infinity. So I'm just selectively sticking around there. So I get that mostly Phrygian sound, but this one sort of funky note that makes it sound a lot more dark and sinister and just unforgiving. So right. So yeah, a lot of fun to be had there. All right, so yeah, that's that stuff. No problem, Mike. Thank you, man. I'm glad that and you know, yeah, having a low gain sound is definitely going to make this easier to do. But yeah, hearing how this works with a lot of distortion, especially if you're going to blend tones, which is going to be pretty common in any modern recording method, having one really distorted guitar like what I'm using here, and then having another layered in with the same performance, just do a DI recording, and just take your original performance and run it through another plugin, another amp modeler that is much cleaner and maybe only a little bit of breakup. I can add a lot more thickness, because a lot of distortion can add a certain degree of intensity, but it actually thins your sound out quite a lot. If it's just, you know, the more distortion you have, the more it's like just thin and sizzle, and you start to lose the meat of the note. Okay, so going back to what we had there. Okay, I'm not going to do that for every one of them, but I just wanted to kind of illustrate it doesn't have to be the note. In fact, I'm going to do one more of them. I'm going to go back to the original one here. All right, and I had, you know, I played you an E so you could hear the Phrygian sound. I'm going to actually play off of what would be Lydian in that same key, just a half step up, play the F. All right, sounds a little bit more major right now. And then we would resolve. So anyway, what I was kind of doing earlier was kind of playing off of this with my open E. And since I have a 7th string, I'm using the F here, because reaching down here is going to be a pain in the ass. It's going to get a little messy going through one guitar, so I do recommend recording this on more than one guitar. You know, where I'm just have that ring out, and then right, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's definitely going to sound a lot more solid if some dedicated guitars are just holding down the fort with the heavy power chords. All right, so I'm going to go back to the diagram. Let's go to the next the next family. Sorry, still clearing this sinus infection now, so I will go into coughing fits probably a few more times tonight. Oh, and you know what? No, I'm not going to go on to the next thing, because I want to point out one last thing about this. I almost forgot, and I would have been sad if I did. And you would have been sad if you knew what you were missing, but I'm going to tell you now. Now you'll realize why you would have been sad if I didn't say this. Okay, so what we're looking at here, okay, you can also do this in relation to the open string like we did, but instead of the first thing that you fret being the note above it, instead of root second, third, or root third, second, you can move it down so you're actually playing off of the note immediately below the open string. So the open string is the minor third. All right, and I didn't map this out, so I apologize, but you're basically just understanding that you're playing off of the open string. Instead of being as the second, which is what is in these diagrams, you turn it into the third, and so you move your notes down. You're going to play the note a half step below it, so it'll be like the 4th fret or in the 3rd fret in one case, right? And then a minor third below that. Okay, so it's just a different way of arranging the 1, 2, and 3 of a minor scale together. Or the 7, 1, and 2 of a Phrygian scale, you know, however you want to deal with it. And so, yeah. Yes, I am still experiencing the aftermath of the cold that I had in late January, and I'm on my 2nd run of antibiotics, because the first ones, 2 days after I finished it, it was all coming back, and so it basically just never went away. Sucks, but yeah, same thing every week. It's just been going on for at least 5 episodes of this, including, well, the first one I canceled, but anyway, yeah, unfortunately. So anyway, just to point that out, you can move this relationship down and play off. The point is to play off of the open string and the next half step. So that that open string needs to be the second, third, fifth, or sixth of a scale, or the root or raised 7 of a minor, or of a harmonic minor or Hungarian minor scale. Okay, and not all dissonance has to be dark either, and it isn't all dark. There's dissonance in those same exact places, maybe except for the harmonic minor part, but what I'm calling the second and third, fifth and sixth of the minor scale are actually the seventh and root, and the third and fourth of the major scale as well. So it just depends on what other notes you're going to put along with it too, which is why I keep going to like root notes in the background and kind of letting you hear it against the context of certain chords, because the minor scale contains the major scale. So if you just start playing from the third note of the minor scale and just really keep hitting that root note a lot of that particular chord, it's going to sound major as hell, because that's what that is. That's where major lives in the minor scale, the third scale degree. Doesn't matter what key you're in. That's where major lives, is number 3. So, yeah, anyway, so let's move on. All right, but I did want to point that out a little bit. Just, you know, this doesn't have to be only, there's like sort of 5 bonus things in there, because you can play off of the open string as, I guess you could probably do another one too. Let's look at that. Let's look at one more possibility. So we do the thought exercise and you're kind of clear about what to look for, because when you see this, I want you to know that there's 2 other versions in there. What if the open string is the root note and I want to hit the second and third higher up? All right, I'm just higher up the fretboard, because these strings are naturally lower. So if that's my root note, I need to hit a G and an F sharp. I probably want to hit my higher note on the higher string, because I don't want to have like an F sharp on here and then have to reach extra for a G here, because these notes are a lot closer together. Plus, actually, a half step as a chord, as a simultaneous interval, is already going to be pretty big. It's actually going to look like that anyway. So like, all right, so I could do, and actually there is a riff I'm going to be playing from, I have a couple of my own riffs I'm going to be throwing in here tonight too. That's kind of handy right there. It's very, Hey You. Hey You. Pink Floyd. That's a nice one too. And so you could do the same thing. I guess there's, yeah. Think of it as just the 1, 2, 3 of a minor scale, and assign the open string to one of those 3 notes, and then find where you have to play the other 2 notes from that relationship on the next 2 lower strings. That is what we're doing here tonight with at least this part of it. And we are halfway through the half hour, so I better hurry the hell up. So anyway, that's sort of what we're doing here. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that, man. So we could do the same thing with this. So this was the root note. I have the root, third, second. So that's a shape we're going to get back to soon. All right, so yeah, 3 row options here, but I just gave you the one where the open string is actually the second note of the minor scale, or the root note of the Phrygian scale, depending on how you're going to go about it. All right, and I am now, in fact, really going to move on to the other half of this. Another very similar thing, where there's basically like kind of 5 options if you have 7 strings. I guess there's only 4 options if you only have 6 strings, but if you have 8 or more strings, you have even more options. Okay, so here's what we're basically doing. Same concept, but now, sorry, the open string is not the second or third or root note, it is actually the 6th. And we're going to play off of the note right below it. So like what we did here, but actually from this note right here, we're going to go down a perfect 5th. You know, something like that. I'm just obviously improvising as we go, just to kind of give you a feel for how that kind of thing would work. It would be a layer typically, but it could be part of just one riff if you worked out how to put it all together. I like to hear, you know, the note ring out underneath it, and clearly, though, not everything running through one pickup into one distorted guitar or amp, rather, you know, that just gets really messy. But the amount of messy I want is, I want that to be there. I just want that to be clear, and then I want to hear it. Something like that, whatever. So, you know, heavy ass guitar power chords beneath it. All right, and so you can kind of do that everywhere, but it's going to look a little bit different. It's basically an E flat. So we have an A flat here, or G sharp. A flat and E flat, I always think of them as that because to me it's much easier. It's basically the two main guitar keys, E minor and A minor, but just down a half step. So to me, it's just easier for me to process that key as A flat minor, not G sharp minor. G sharp minor, it's like throws a wrench in my mental gears, and I have to think a lot more slowly. Even when it's not the right alphabetical name for the note, like when I'm in C sharp minor, which I play in like a lot, it's one of my favorite keys. Its fifth to me is A flat, but I know it's not. It's G sharp. But I like, when I think, I just cross over, and that note needs to be A flat because it's right below A. I know it's technically incorrect, but that's one of my little quirks. But anyway, so for me, I think of this as the A flat minor, root, fifth, sixth. And now you think of this as the E flat minor, root, fifth, and sixth. All right, now for the next one, we got to actually move up a fret. All right, because we were kind of here. We needed to be down at 1 to get the root note lower. Because, again, we're dealing with the second and third string in both of these cases. This is kind of like a 1-5 progression in A flat minor. Right? So anyway, moving on. We're going to move up a little bit. And it's a really handy one right there. And what's cool, especially with even without a 7 string, you can just kind of take, it's just playing a B power chord with the G string. So you can extend your first finger 1 extra string and bar over your 6th string as well. And if you have a 7th string, it works really nicely there too. And I have a little something for you a little bit later with that one too. So yeah, that's sort of what this is. And the lower and lower you go, the muddier it tends to get, which is not a problem. You can still use this, but I would suggest that you use an EQ and cut the lows a bit so that it still stays a little clearer and a little less muddy. Just simply use a high pass filter on that track, or you know, if you're using like a actual like a pedal EQ, it won't be parametric, but you can use a graphic and just start cutting the lows at 100, and I'd probably even cut it at 250, maybe even all the way. This is not something that's meant to be super. The more low frequencies you have in this, the harder it's going to be to hear clearly. Anyway, so let's see. It's like yeah. So anyway, that kind of thing. Yeah, down here gets a little. I don't even know if I would really want to use it that low, but it's there. And of course you could do kind of the same thing. I guess you would play the root note here. The open string actually is the 5th. And here it's been the 6th. It's the same concept, you just rearrange the notes a little bit. So let's see, instead of here, I would actually play an A, where the E is the 5th, and I have to reach up a little further to the F. Same thing here, it'll be an E with a C, and then the B is the 5th. So the power chord is a string skip apart, basically. and then the dissonant note is above here. So it's actually usually 3 frets higher on the next higher string. Then we have so because of where they are, I would, by the way, I'm going to insert this now. I would suggest here 40 minutes into the lesson, when you discover one that sounds cool, write around what key it actually happens in. Don't really, I mean, if you're wondering like, okay, that's cool, where would I use these? Write around it. Find one that sounds cool to you already, that has some potential. Start with that chord and write something else playable in that key. All right. So don't even worry too much about like, how am I supposed to throw that in with these don't go together. Often they don't, and don't worry about it. Just think of it as 18 different songs you can write on that sheet alone, plus the extra hidden versions that I showed you by saying, well, don't make that the root note, make that the first or the second or the third. So you have at least, you know, if it's 3 specific notes playing against each other, you technically have 3 versions of it. You just have to get creative with how you're going to actually play it. All right, so it's about playing intervals, but in a way that they ring over each other. And that interval pattern needs to at least consist of at least one half step. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of leave you with that. Let's move on a little bit. Let me see what we got here. I'm going to move on to this one. All right, this is actually what I was first jamming on before I got onto my Olsonov song here. This is a C minor, but it's something I was kind of doing the other day. And it's basically, so... All right, it's just to kind of program your ear to hear the C. All right. Let's see. So your root note is here. So what I'm doing is a little bit weird. I'm actually playing the third in the bass. If you had another guitar, you could do. Yeah, to kind of line up to that, you could kind of do that, or come up with another chord shape or something like that to kind of complement it. Or you could also have the bass just, you know, kind of hold that down so that you have a little bit more of a solid C under the whole thing. But I'm just going up and down 5 strings with this, and I notice that the 4th string has an open string marker, but also a 6th fret, and I'm just going back and forth between that. Everything's up on the fingertips here, and I just kind of like the way both phrases sound. So I'm in this particular case, notice also my selective palm muting. I'm kind of muting those low notes that would add too much mud to it, so I can still get a punchy kind of sound on the way up to it, and then I kind of let off the palm muting when I get to the higher strings, so they're able to ring over each other. So it kind of keeps the noise down and allows me to focus on the area where the dissonance is, where I want it, and still get a pretty clear sound overall. All right, I'm going to move to the one below that after the next one. All right. Another thing I was just messing around with C chords the other day. This one's kind of a fun one, which is just simply you need a 7th string for this one, obviously, but you can actually, it's actually kind of a sus2, root, 5th, octave, that's root again, 2nd, 5th. All right, it's called a sus2. All right, because you have, instead of root 3rd, 5th, it's a root 2nd, 5th combination. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Do the same thing with A, E, and C. Yep, and there's other cool things that you can kind of do with that too. Just, you know, rephrasing the chords. Again, this is all about the voicings. So if you can come up with different ways to combine these intervals or notes from a chord in different ways. This is about coming up with your own ways to make these notes overlap. And we want to have at least one interesting interval here. All right, I'm going to move over here now. That's all that was. Just basically you're hammering on from the open. I was kind of doing it in the context where the C was not C minor, but it was more of a, like a B Phrygian kind of thing. Something like that. So it's just, you know, not particularly, actually that was not that, that's probably the least dissonant chord in tonight's lesson. Oops. I just thought it sounded cool, so whatever. All right, I'm going to move over here now, and this is where I'm going to start whipping out some of my own riffs here after a bit. Okay, so we did that one. Oh yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry for all the scrolling. Okay, so this one here is essentially... this is one I like to do just coming from a power chord. So I started with E in this case. And this is actually just, this is not dissonant at all, but it's just for context. Right? It's basically open E, and then you play a full octave E power chord from 7, 9, and 9 on your 5th, 4th, and 3rd string. And then you also play your open 1st and 2nd string. So it's just nothing but E and B all the way across. And I'm not going to include my low B for this one. I want clarity there. So what I could do then is I'm going to kind of... It's sort of like playing a 9th instead. So there's one F sharp in there. But what I'm also going to do, I'm going to take this B, especially since I already have one there. I'm going to make it a C instead. And let's just listen to the core of this. All right, back and forth between a regular E power chord and that, to me, I love it. You can also slide a little bit further up to the G on that. That's your 3rd. There's your 2nd. So anyway, yeah, it's kind of a fun one. Actually, I had a riff where I actually kind of use these shapes too. It's let's see what. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, wow. Haven't played that one in a while. I think I wrote that in like 2008 or so. But anyway, I'm just using those kind of things. But I had some early Todesbanden riffs that were like, let's see, there it is. Root 6th, 2nd. It's a really nice dissonant chord, but very melodic, and it adds a nice level of harmony within it. It sounds in key. It's still totally in key, and it's not even like harmonic minor or anything. It's just, I mean, it fits in harmonic minor too, but it's a nice way to harmonize, sort of going from the 1 chord to the 6th chord. So anyway, just adding that. Now, right below it, okay, that's that one, where your root note is essentially the higher note. You're basically moving up. This would have been the 5th. That would have been the E here. Just looking at this E, that would have been your B. But I've moved it up to a C, and C sort of becomes the root note. Yeah, it's also very Queensryche kind of thing too. Definitely, I'm sure that this is on Empire at least a couple times. And to me, that's the Queensryche album. I know I don't really listen to any other Queensryche, but I love Empire a lot. Now, below it though, similar idea, but the 2 higher notes are actually a fret lower and closer to the E. So this is something I actually just used in the last couple of months on something, and it's just an interesting way of what I showed you here. Just the really big open E power chord here. Open, so E, E, B, E, B, E. This is actually a Randy Rhoads chord that he was using in on Ozzy Tribute, the tribute album where they played Iron Man. He kind of had, I just was listening very closely to everything that Randy Rhoads was doing, and it was kind of like, he was like, oh. And he kept doing that like once or twice throughout the song, and ooh, and I just picked that kind of thing up. Yeah, I just butchered the Iron Man thing. Oh well, whatever. I don't give a crap. Anyway, but yeah. And I know that's the way that Randy Rhoads was playing that particular riff there. Anyway, but yeah, taking that, right? And I'm going to take the E, since I already have an abundance of E, 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 right? I'm going to sacrifice one of them and raise it to an F. And it's just this like, ooh, it's just an unforgiving kind of thing, very dissonant kind of in-your-face Phrygian. So yeah, that's a fun one too. Yeah, Phrygian. There's the context for you. While I'm here, I'll just do this one. This is sort of a one-off thing here too. All right. This is actually something I used in my own song "Enchanter Destroyer" on my album Emanations. It's a 7-string thing. That album was all 8-string, but this riff doesn't involve the 8th string at all. The 8th string. Yeah, it's and it's like oh. Let's see. Yeah, something like that. Really playing off of that. It's a tritone. So basically just I wasn't looking for dissonant chords in this case. I just wanted to actually play off of the B string and this kind of stacked fifths kind of thing, which is another sus too. I use that stuff all the time. I just love that sound. It's a little bit dissonant. It's just kind of almost ambiguous though. Not major, not minor. Just kind of interesting. But then I was like, oh, what if I hit the next open string? I just like to see what happens if I do that. Sometimes it's a horrible sound, but it's like, oh, yeah. It's going from root, 5th, 2nd, 6th. And if I wanted all of the notes on open strings from there on out are all in this key, in B minor, so right. So anyway, there's that, and I'm kind of almost merging this together with another Olsonu song too. Anyway, though, let me explore some other things here. I'm actually going to get into a very short little breakdown of some stuff in an Olsonu song, the one that I used in the intro. All right, yeah, let's go up to this one here. Actually, no, I'm going to go out of order. Sorry, apologize. I'm going to do this one here, second from the bottom on the right side. All right, and it's very much the same thing as what I did here. That, but I'm going to move it down to the 2nd fret. And I can actually use the entire B string if I want, or I can just leave it. Right? That is the core of it right there. Just I would say you need the whole B power chord with the raised B to a C, and then have that open B string in there. Right? But you can go further and I would mostly not use the high E string in this. That's not, it's another note, and it's not bad. If you like the sound of it, go for it. Try it out, see what it sounds like. But to me, that's not, I don't like, that's the sauce I don't like to put in the soup in this case. All right. The next one is actually the one above it. And this is one I've been using since probably the minute I got a 7-string. I have a couple riffs that use this, so I'm going to play them now. This is one from, there's basically 2 unreleased Olsonu songs. One from 2004, where I had I'm going to do the clean thing. Well, this was a clean riff, and it's followed by the same riff, but as the way I'm going to play it now. But it's basically, this is another chord that's not listed here, but it's basically, it's a descending harmonic minor thing. I really kind of wanted to go, right? Yeah, that. But I didn't have a place where I can access that note with the other two, so I went with that, and I went with a different form of dissonance, but. Right, and so that's actually like a solo section out of my song Vitellius. I will eventually release that. It needs some. In 2004, I was not the guitar player I wanted to be once I hit, whatever world stage I was aiming for. So I just didn't release it. Now, in 2015, I actually used a similar kind of concept there with that type of phrase, and it was on the opening song and title song of my Olsonov album, Iconoclast. And it's... That's a very hard one, but that's where that whole a lot of ringing notes over each other. And there's a faster version in the middle. Boy, that's a hard one. When you get it right, it's great, but yeah, it's very hard to get right. So anyway, yeah, that's one place, or two places where I actually used that pattern. I think it's great, just the way you just root, fifth, and then get up on the fingertips there, and then hit that open G. It's great. And I'm sure I used that in a couple other riffs in that same song too. So anyway, that's just a really fun one. The next one down is, yeah, the one on the bottom of that is, I actually used that in a different Olsonov song on the same album, Hiding from Reality. It's in a different tuning, but it was in C sharp Phrygian, but I'm going to play it in E Phrygian, but it's like, yeah. Yeah, this is a chord I like to do a lot. It's really simple. Play it like an F bar chord, but don't bar. Just pick up your fingertips, or pick up anything that's not your fingertips, just fingertips, and play open strings instead. And resolving back to an E major, it has almost a flamenco kind of, has a kind of quality. But I like to use that in metal a lot. I've been using it for a couple decades now. It's just one of my favorite kind of sounds when it comes to creating a dissonant sounding chord. So that's another bonus one I didn't include here. I want to talk a little bit about a couple more that I thought were kind of fun. And again, I really love 7-string because, as soon as you go beyond 6 strings, there's always a portion of the guitar community who's always like, can you play chords on it? Yes, you can play chords on anything. I have a 10-string over there I can play chords on. But if the chord automatically has to involve all of the strings on your instrument, then no. But that's not like a gotcha, though. It's not the gotcha they think it is when they ask it that way. So all of these, a chord only needs to be 3 notes. So yeah, I can play chords on anything if you understand how chords are built. Root, third, fifth, or in our case, a little bit more loosely defined, notes ringing over each other. Yeah, I can do that on anything. That's why it has so many strings. Yeah, So in this case, I'm going to play a little piece here. I'm going to jump over to the news view here, and I'm going to actually just pop in a little clip from the song that I opened this with. I just decided to use one of my new 5 years new. It's unreleased. It's new. Nobody's heard it. And this is called These Wicked Instruments. And I'll probably release this as a single long before I get around to doing that whole album. But have a listen to this section here, and this is something that I'm particularly happy with, part of what inspired tonight's topic. So have a listen here. So yeah, it's in D. All right, so this song is in D Phrygian, and a little bit of D minor, but it's yeah. So I did that thing again, where all this stuff where I'm like taking a power chord and the octave and shifting it up a half step, but where I happen to be sitting here, Oh yeah, let me get rid of that. I don't need to see that anymore. So, but I actually barred across, so it's actually root, fifth, second, third. It's sort of what it would be if it was all in one octave. So, and then all right, so there's a lot of that kind of thing. I'm just trying to get enough notes to ring over each other that you don't notice when I'm on and off the fret on that string. So I have to kind of switch my fingers around. So oh. Yeah. Remembering how to replay my own riffs, that would be cool. That's a really hard chord. This is something, I don't really listen to Eric Johnson or anything, but I do remember something very important that I'm learning from something he said in an interview or maybe it was a column once in the early 90s. But sometimes if he runs out of fingers, this is something that's very important in this. Sometimes if you just don't have enough fingers to play all the notes, sometimes you have to sort of take one finger and straddle two strings, and you have to center it just right. And this is what's really hard about this particular part of the riff. So this is a call and response kind of thing. It's basically this riff is just, you know, D, E flat, D, E flat, okay? But the second, the E flat parts are two different parts. So this, the first time it's yeah. All right. The last time it's, you have that kind of I'm playing the fifth and the next octave with one finger. This is a major hand killer here, but yeah. Yeah, something like that. So anyway, yeah, that was it. Let me go ahead and play it correctly for you. This way. So anyway, yeah, that's what it actually sounds like in the recording. I had to relearn it today from 4.5 years ago when I wrote it, because I really didn't remember how to play all that. But anyway, well, I know I was sort of jamming on it the other day, but not all today. But I didn't learn all the chords back over again. So anyway, today that all happened. So anyway, I'm actually out of time for tonight, and I hate to cut it short like that, but I just wanted to kind of illustrate more of an approach here and not just give you a bunch of chords and here, have some fun with it, because I already used them. I know that's how a lot of people approach things, but I like you to understand what's going on underneath the hood so you can use these yourself. All I'm doing is taking a certain interval pattern that happens already in the scale, but I'm playing it in such a way that I can make them ring over each other. All right, so there's way more than the 18 shapes on that particular page. But I wanted to point that out to you today, just so you can kind of get an idea of that. And again, don't forget to go ahead and click on the link in the chat so that you can get that download. It's no longer on the screen here, but anyway, that is it for tonight. I do want to say that if you like what I'm doing here and you want to support the show, one thing you can do is go over to brutalities.printify.me. to my new store. I've got a lot of t-shirt designs going on, ShredMentor ones in particular, but if you happen to also like my music, which you can find at jasonaaronwood.bandcamp.com, you can always also grab some of that and have a listen. If you like that, please buy that too, because every little bit helps me to continue doing this thing. Remember, this is free. I do this every week because it's something I love and I care about trying to help just spread information that is going to help guitarists out there. But, you know, it does, all of this stuff that I do costs a great deal of money, so even breaking even on the things I have to do would really help a lot. So you can see there's just a simple ShredMentor logo shirt, which, you know, a nice little crackle design going on with that. But yeah, it's simple. There's also stickers you can put on stuff. They did the dreaded guitar sticker. This actually goes anywhere from like 2 inches to 2x2 to 6x6, so they get huge if you like them that way. I always like to put them on my guitar cases. There's even a Total Artist Development System one, kind of showing the 3 pillars. So yeah, a couple different things, and of course, like I said, there's a bunch of stuff like, you know, showing my own artwork from my, you know, albums and stuff like that. Some of this track artwork I've been creating lately. So anyway, if you are into what I'm doing here and you want to support the channel and what I'm doing here and the school, that's a great way that you can do it, and also get a kick-ass t-shirt. Kind of like what I'm wearing right now. This was just a joke. You can't have shades without Hades. I just saw somebody wearing a shirt set the other day, and I was like, wow, it was like slightly covered by a hoodie they were wearing over it, but it said the word shades. I'm like, hey, interesting. And all you do is add an S in front of Hades and you got shades. So I was like, there we go. We need a picture of Hades wearing some sunglasses. So there's going to be some just silly, funny shit on there once in a while too. Or hopefully you find it funny. So for the Ulsonuf tracks, the one that I just played you from, not released yet. Not going to be out for, I don't know, maybe I'll try to release that track this year. Hopefully, you know, I got a lot of this year left. So, you know, 10 more of those months are left in this year. So I'll try to get that one out soon. But the other one, well, one of the other ones I played for you is that's up on jasonaaronwood.bandcamp.com on the album Iconoclast. It's the first track. It's the title track. So you can kind of hear where I use some of those things. I use that stuff all the time, and I kind of forgot about it. I can't believe that doing this since October of 2021, I've never thought to mention this topic before. And just playing around the other days, like it's unbelievable how as you progress over time, you just stop thinking about things that you just do all the time. Things that, I mean, you see me struggling a little bit with some of these chords. You know, they're not even that easy. It's not like I'm so good at it that I don't even think about it anymore. But you know, it's just, yeah, you just start not even thinking about things. You just take things for granted after a while. So interesting, but. Yeah, hey, thanks for asking, Scott. I hope that you enjoy that. There's a lot of stuff like that. Anything I referenced, well, not except for the things I specifically said are unreleased, so the Ulsonuf stuff. But yeah, all of the Jason Aaron Wood and Ulsonuf stuff is all on jasonaaronwood.bandcamp.com, because they're both, I basically have 2 solo projects. So you can get them there. So anyway, thank you guys very much for joining me tonight. I do have to go. It's always, you know, it's always hard to get off here because I enjoy doing this show and don't want to stop when it's time, but I need to go back and be a dad now. So I will see you guys next week.